good to have you back. Pastoral Theology 3, Lecture 19, Part C, where we left off on page 4 of 5.
Yeah.
What can we as shepherds do to cultivate and solidify purity in such a volatile and destructive area? He says, build fences. Build fences that will not only protect our lives from the encroaching adversary, but also provide arenas in which we can live, play, love, and enjoy both ministry and life with a conscience that is pure from the haunting guilt and fear that moral failure in any configuration will inevitably bring. So the sentences are long and kind of like Apostle Paul's. But I think you might gather generally what he's saying. So we'll talk about these fences, as he calls them, where you can be safe at. And there's a lot more to say on this, but I'll just go over what he has. There's 3. We actually had 4, not including one of them. So 3 fences. Number 1, recess. Recess time! It's time to go out for recess. Nothing could be more important than creating within a ministry scheduled spaces to be away from responsibility and pressure. If you don't build your own playground, you can count on it that Satan will build one for you. So what do? And I need to do more of this once September comes around. I don't have all this Bible college. My wife has accused me almost tongue-in-cheek with worshiping Bible college. So, well, it'll be different after August. I won't have this load anymore. But what do I do? What do I do for fun? What do I do? Eat?
Make fun of your parishioners.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't do much for fun. I mean, I have fun. I make my own fun as I go and laugh and goof around. But sometimes I'll exercise some, but is that really fun? It's a release. It's winter time, so I don't exercise as much as you can tell. But I'll get back into it. There's going to be some major changes. But I need to build in more recess time. If we're looking for an example, we need to remember that on several occasions the Gospels record that Christ went apart and rested. I could have put the verses in there, but I think you're familiar with it. He knew that it was impossible to continue to give effectively, without replenishing his emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental tanks. And of course it was for his disciples too. So recess. Realism. Before you get to the edge of moral failure, think through the dynamics carefully, my friends. A good dose of realism is the second fence to keep strong. We need to be realistic about our thought life. Let me back up. So the realism is, it says it later, is understand, like I went through this before the end of the last section, of all the consequences of this pursuit you're going in. Because most of the time, in my understanding, it doesn't all of a sudden just happen. Like with Joseph, we'll talk about in a little bit, it didn't just happen. This has been going on. It was building. So like in a counseling session, or you're just around some lady at the church, and you're just kind of noticing it. Maybe even you're noticing yourself a little attracted to her. It's kind of like, oh, what am I doing here? I think right. Looking at her more, whatever. So you know this is going on. You're starting to feel the issue. And then some events occur that are probably understandable that they would occur the way things were going. And then you've got a big decision to make. Because I often thought of this. What happens if a woman in our church, who I know, I don't know, whatever, of course I know her, she's in our church, comes up to me and I'm just walking out of the bathroom or something, she catches me, no one else is around, and wants to kiss me. What am I going to do? I'm going to, no, of course. Like I'd expect my wife to do if some man did that, then I'd come down and kill him. But what would happen? What happened if she was like 6'6"?
I was going to say, first be sure it's a woman.
There's a patient of mine that's transgendered.
Oh, wow.
Hideous. Most are. I'm sorry to offend the LGBT community, but most LGBTs are hideous. Oh, you're going to send me some pictures of ones that aren't so hideous. Yeah, there's maybe a few that aren't. And am I making fun of them? I'm just making a statement of fact. This person was hideous. It was a he, taking ethyl estradiol to help him become more womanly. But his voice was deeper than mine.
You sure know how to put on makeup well, huh?
Well, he didn't. He needed some. Of course he did. So, man, it's a bad day. Bad Guy's Day, huh? Anyways, let's go on. Bad Gender Day. Maybe pick a different gender. There's many to choose from. All right, going on. Realism. Okay, we need to be realistic with our thought life. If I permit my thought life to wander, this is key, over the boundary of love and loyalty to my own wife and respect for other women, eventually it will show in the way I look at and talk to and flirt with and perceive women. This is so true whether you're in the pastorate or not, as a man at least. If you're thinking of women a certain way, if you watch enough of those movies, shows, pictures in the magazines, and it's all this, you know how it is out there. They usually don't have hideous women plastered all over the place. So then your view of women changes, of course. And in the church, it can be that way also. And maybe you've met a flirty pastor before, or been around one, or had one. Hopefully I'm not. I don't want to be. I want to be nice. One that is overly complimentary. I'm not going to use anyone here, but let's say there's a gal over here. So Laura, I'm not talking to anyone directly here. But, oh, you sure look nice today again, sister? Well, that blouse you're wearing it really looks good on you. Really does, and I love the way your hair is today. Maybe once saying that in 10 years, okay, but if that pastor, if I kept saying that to her every week I saw her, number one, she might want to come up to me and say, hey, you crossed the line here. I don't want you to say nice things about me anymore. It was weirding me out, creeping me out.
Any man besides my husband.
Yeah, okay.
Saying that would bother me.
Right. Or maybe she likes it. Well, thank you. And that's going to egg him on. Well, you're just a beautiful woman. Well, that could go so easy. And there's a lot of people that flirted in their 1800s, in their earlier years before they got married, and then, well, it can come back. Carelessness, anyways, going on. The more we permit hidden immoral patterns to develop in our lives, the more controlling they will become. Yes, and ultimately will lay the groundwork for defeat. So a man has been known for this, goes into the pastorate, he's going to try and be a godly man, amen, try and be it. The pressures get to him, he goes back to his old ways, what would make him feel good, interact with some women, have some women, what man doesn't like a woman to say, something nice about them, especially if they're an attractive woman. That is a typical nice feeling. Then there's also the world of the internet. You used to go look at bad stuff. Maybe you used to watch football all the time. Maybe you used to gamble. Go back to these things because the pressures are getting to him, and he ain't getting any release. It's like, I can't take it. So he's forced into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, he's not. But also, we need to be realistic about the fact that sin brings consequences. Before we get close to such a failure, we ought to be realistic about the failure itself. Why would any of us want to erode the foundations of our children's respect for their dad? Think about that a little bit. How that's going to play out. Why would we want to potentially destroy our wife's life and her usefulness for the Lord? Even if you don't like her much, why would you want to do that? Why would we want to harm the dear flock that God has entrusted us with, to where many of them might never darken the doorway of a church building again? Is the satisfaction obtained from this immoral, wicked jaunt of libido really worth the destruction that it will bring? Of course it isn't. Also think of how your life will be after this. Guilt-ridden, potentially divorced, without ready access to your children. Out of the ministry and out of income. Horrible embarrassment in your community. And the awful pain that it's going to cause your dear Savior. All for a few moments of selfishly sensual, sinful pleasure. Are you insane? Well, I guess so. So many do it. All that for a bowl of lentils? Although it is true that a man will try hard to keep the illicit affair. This is key here. I really opened my eyes up. So it's true that a man's going to try hard to keep the illicit affair covered that he just had. Right? He's going to try, yeah, as a pastor. Women almost always eventually tell. Not because they want to make trouble. They could be, but not always that. But because they move into an immoral relationship for far different reasons. Men can carry on an affair interminably, means never ending, because their need is usually not much more than affirmation and gratification. That's what they want. And they get it. Keep that going. A woman seeks something deeper in terms of security and a deepening intimacy of relationship. So when she discovers he is not in the wicked relationship that they're in out of a true love and commitment to her, she's going to feel hurt and used. Oftentimes she will become vindictive and will leak the information to hurt her pastor lover, or will leak it in order to hopefully break up his marriage, and then she can have him all to herself. I don't know if I said it right, or he said it right at the beginning. These are my statements at the end. But the woman almost always tells, men. The woman's almost always going to tell. And it doesn't say it here, but think about it, ladies. If something like that happened to you, you're involved with that. Or don't think about it. Or someone else was. But I'm going to see them because of just the emotionality of it all. So the pastor backs off because he realized he did wrong, and let's say the relationship ends, and then she's feeling the torture of it all. Women are way more emotional. The man can just go, oh well, hopefully no one finds out. So she's in the torture of it all, wants to start growing again with the Lord, but has the guilt on her. She's going to tell someone. She's going to tell her girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Eventually it's going to get out. It's going to get out. Sometimes, though, they go off together, like one man I know, one pastor I know, on the west side. And he left with either the Sunday school teacher or the piano player, one of the two, secretary, one of those three. And they took off for Alaska or somewhere. They either started a church or just be alone. So he left his family. She left her family. Relationship. The story of Joseph is amazing. How could a young man in the prime of his life be able to resist a woman who was no doubt very beautiful in a land where sensuality was celebrated, and at a time of life when he seemingly had been deserted by... I don't know if he's right on that, if he felt that way, but Joseph had cultivated and secured two key relationships. His relationship to his God, his relationship to those to whom he was responsible, his boss, Potiphar. Joseph no doubt had trouble resisting Potiphar's wife, for he had to run from her, in my view. And he had to leave, he just left his coat in her hands. He had to get out of there, not because he was worried that she was going to tackle him and force him to do something. I don't think she was 6'5", my guess. But he was feeling the temptation. He had the book fast. He knew that either he had to run right then and there or he would fall. His commitment to his boss, Potiphar, and the boss, God, was too great to allow this less important relationship to evolve. So what he did here was he had those relationships really high. I'll say more on this here momentarily. Thus, cultivating a close relationship with your children, your wife, your church, and your God will greatly aid in helping to prevent this cultivating of a wicked relationship with the church's secretary, piano player, Sunday school teacher, whoever it is. Here's the key. It probably should be in red, but this is simply because these other relationships are just too healthy. You made them healthy and rewarding to want to hurt them. They're too important to you. Men say their wife and their children are very important to them, but then they go off into sin. They weren't important enough, or you wouldn't have done that. The danger, though, is when these other relationships are not that healthy, meaning with your wife and children, with God, with the church. That's when men fall. When they aren't, those relationships are not so healthy, and then this relationship is going to bring great pleasure and say, well, these don't really matter anymore. I'm convinced that pastors, he wrote, should have windows in their study doors, literally, windows there. That we should never counsel members of the opposite gender when our secretaries or staff members are not in close proximity. You know what I said earlier on that? I mean, they better be very close to where they can hear. That we should avoid explicit sensual talk with women and refuse to go into sensual details in our counseling, of course. I mean, that's insane. Being alone with a woman and talking about sexuality? Oh, no. That we should immediately mark our feelings when we are in the least bit drawn to another woman. So this is key, men. When you feel that attraction or whatever it is, we'll call it attraction, mark it. What does that mean? I mean, it's, okay, warning sign, red alert. I got to be careful here. And pray about it. We need to monitor our physical, emotional, and spiritual gauges. And when we start running on fumes, mark the problem and replenish our reserves through recreation, rest, lest we drive our ministry into the ditch. Here's a key thing. We need to move the movies, the videos, and other media that stimulate our sensuality out of bounds, and purpose not to participate in them. So it's feeding you. and you're turning into this person that's going to fall. The more you watch those things, and allow yourself to see it. We need to be accountable and honest with our wives and our close male godly friends. We need accountability. And I would advise you men, if you're starting to have trouble with a woman in the church, well, if you think you're going to be end up falling soon, tell your wife. She'll help you not fall. I would hope. Tell your wife. Oh, she's not going to divorce you for that. She'll probably be upset, but what she really thinks about, she's a godly woman, just say, hey, he's needing help. He realizes that he's starting to slip. He hasn't sinned yet, maybe, at least physically, but he's feeling the problem. So I think the wife would step on in and says, okay, I'm going to help you, you knucklehead, I'll get you out of this. Like if my wife said, Dave, honey dear, I'm having troubles with, I think I've got a gambling addiction. I'm not sure. I'd laugh probably first, but then I'd go, okay, you serious? Yeah. All right, well, good. I'm glad you told me. So how much have you spent? This is about $10,000. Okay, all right, that's good, all right. So let's get this thing under control. I want to help you. You knucklehead. So we'll try and help her. When people get the distinct impression that we are deeply in love with our wife, that we adore her, and still hold her in awe, it defends us against women who, for one reason or another, are drawn to us. So that's key. And I need to all the more do this with my wife. Have her around and close to me, by my side. That's why I like to have her at Bible college. That's a key time. That's good. And they will be drawn to us. Oh, and they will be drawn to us, meaning women will. It's just going to happen in the ministry. He's stating this, and there was something said afterwards, after this last statement. It was basically said, it's not always this way, but it can happen this way. So anyways, here I'll read it. By our very position, we represent so much that their hearts long for. We are leaders, strong, compassionate, pastoral, and sensitive, portraying an image of spiritual vitality. Given that these qualities are so much of what a woman longs for in a man, we immediately have a measure of magnetism that we should never take advantage of for our own gratification.